Some of the provinces of Breath of the Wild's Hyrule have harsh climates, from the scorching desert of Gerudo to the frozen peaks of Hebra. But none are as brutal as Eldin, specifically Death Mountain. Stray too close to the home of the Gorons unprepared and you simply will burn to a crisp. A clear testament to the extreme conditions of this province. Traversing this lava-drenched wasteland requires Flame Guard elixirs, or better yet, Flamebreaker armor, exclusively available at the Goron City shop. Not sponsored. Today we will explore Eldin's most notable locations, landmarks, characters, history, as well as the possible role they could play in Breath of the Wild sequel. But first, make sure to leave a like, subscribe and join us on our adventure to 250,000 subscribers, less than 10,000 to go. Also, today we will check off the final province of Hyrule of our list, officially concluding our journey across the 8 Breath of the Wild provinces likely to return inside Breath of the Wild 2.
Spanning from the north to the northeast of Hyrule, Eldin borders central Hyrule to the west, Lanayru to the south, and Akala to the east. In terms of landmass, it is, despite its massive stature, believe it or not, actually the smallest province of Hyrule, with Akala as a close second. But what it lacks in size, it makes up for in height. The giant volcano, Death Mountain, which makes up close to 90% of the total province. Its peak stands as Hyrule's highest point of elevation in terms of terrain, even slightly outclassing the shield-surfing paradise Hebra Mountain. Its humongous size, as well as the tall plumes of smoke emitting from its crater, mean that it can be seen towering in the distance from almost anywhere in Hyrule, including in the reveal of Breath of the Wild sequel. Death Mountain and the Gorons will for sure return with its active volcano, fiery lakes and rivers of lava streaming down from its summit, making a large radius of the province inhospitable. Luckily, this also brings some rather relaxing and health-rejuvenating hot springs. Although Eldin is for the most part giant f***ing rocks, some small slivers of green could be found at some of its outer borders, but other than that, the entire province consists of mostly volcanic rock. As we have stated in the opening narrative, this is no place for Hylians or any of Hyrule's other humanoid races unless they are very well prepared. With the exception of one, the Gorons. Literally made of rock, this proud and strong race is capable of withstanding the harsh condition of Death Mountain with ease, which also helped them survive the Great Calamity 100 years ago. We are of course excluding Koroks, classified as spirits. These seem to abide by different laws of physics. Or else this Korok here would, just like wooden weapons and shields, surely have turned into charcoal in a matter of mere seconds. Right after the Great Calamity, Goron City was in a state of depression. They were left leaderless after the passing of the Great Daruk, one of the 5 champions of Hyrule. However, the Gorons have always been blessed financially, as Eldin is home to much of Hyrule's rupee and gemstone deposits and most of its mining operations. Gemstones, which the Gorons themselves had no use for, turned out to be highly profitable and good for trading with other races. In the decades following the Great Calamity, the Gorons, led by their new leader Bludo, turned this area into an extensive mining business, digging out gemstones from the rich volcanic rock of Death Mountain and trading them with the other races. This resulted in a huge financial boom and, despite its harsh environment, even an increase in tourism in Goron City.
If Breath of the Wild was a standalone title, there would not be a whole lot more to Eldin except for the Gorons, their mining business, the burning climate, the Vine Bisvarudania, and the bones of one of the mysterious Leviathans. But with the sequel on the way, what can we really expect to find in addition to what was present in Breath of the Wild? Well, for starters, we have never actually seen the inside of Death Mountain itself. Though the mountain has always been treacherous, in past Zelda titles like A Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, and Twilight Princess, just to name a few, in those, we were able to access the inside of this iconic volcano. Not only that, but in most cases, it housed at least 1 or 2 of the game's dungeons or temples: the Dongus Cavern, the Fire Temple, Goron Mines, and in Skyward Sword the Earth Temple and the Fire Sanctuary. With a possible return to traditional dungeons in Breath of the Wild 2, Death Mountain would definitely be a prime candidate for a dungeon location. A big inner network of volcanic tunnels, minecarts like the ones we saw surrounding Death Mountain, and underneath Hyrule Castle, and of course with lava-filled caves and chambers. Similar to Skyward Sword's Earth Temple, Ocarina of Time's the Dongus Cavern, and Twilight Princess Goron Mines, which by the way are all located in the same place, only in different eras: Sky, Time, and Twilight. In other words, there's a probability that in the era of the Wild we could get a dungeon in Death Mountain, which might also then continue the location tradition found throughout the timeline. It would also help with confirming the timeline placement of the game, specifically in the child timeline. Wink wink. However, simply rehashing a fire-themed dungeon like the ones from previous Zelda games would of course be underwhelming, and though Divine Beast Vah Rudania's pitch-dark nature was interesting, Breath of the Wild's open-air gameplay style could present an amazing way to breathe new life into the old Death Mountain dungeons. Similar to Hyrule Castle's open non-linear design, the dungeon could be a giant maze that can be traversed in many different ways, only this time with dead ends, trap rooms, lava-based obstacles, and so on. And in the midst of it all, minecarts that we use to move across the temple, but where our progression might be blocked by some pesky locked doors until we solve specific puzzles, and then after entering new chambers, we're forced to locate the next minecart which might be blocked away another blocked door, or some other kind of obstacle.
The minecarts in Breath of the Wild combined with the Magnesis rune offered countless possibilities which Meti333 clearly evidenced with his experiments. Imagine if some of this potential was actually utilized in an Eldin/Death Mountain Goron dungeon in the era of the Wild. If Death Mountain indeed does house a minecart based operation, we're probably going to have to either get assistance or permission from the Gorons themselves, which brings us to the next point. The Divine Beast, including Vah Rudania, was built by the Sheikah and only piloted by Gorons, so we actually have not been in a Goron dungeon/temple so far in the era of the Wild. And as we all know, the future lay in key characters like the possible next Goron champion, Yunobo, and the Goron elder Bludo. Well, judging by Bludo's track record of back problems as well as his age, it's unlikely we can expect much from him. Yunobo, however, could fulfill the role of one of Hyrule's new line of champions in addition to Tabor, Sidon, and Riju, with a newfound courage sparked by his successful mission with Link to reconquer Vah Rudania, or actually first following his brief eye-to-eye encounter with the spirit of his ancestor Daruk. If this is the case, Yunobo could once again join us as a temporary companion, or at the very least assist us in uncovering the secrets of Death Mountain and the dungeon that is certain to be there. Perhaps even solidify himself as a new hero of the Goron race, future Goron Elder, and claim a spot amongst the past Goron heroes and elders.
Speaking of which, let's step away from potential dungeon crawling to talk about Mount Goron more. Yes, the Gorons have their very own equivalent of Mount Rushmore, with the most important ancestors memorialized in stone, with the late Daruk as its newest addition. In terms of the identities of the other statues, nothing has yet been confirmed, though some strong guesses have been made as to who they are supposed to represent. Well, actually, other than Daruk, they are all from the child timeline. Termina's Goron hero Darmani III and the Goron Elder's son. Why are they there? No explanation was given on the stone carving in Breath of the Wild, and Termina isn't exactly Hyrule. I guess the only reasons they are there is to commemorate great Goron figures or heroes. And seeing that Link, or the Hero of Time, played as Darmani III and also helped the Goron Elder's son in Majora's Mask, it wouldn't be too much of a stretch that the Gorons of Hyrule learned about Darmani III's accomplishments, which were obviously Goron links. I guess Darunia didn't accomplish enough in the child timeline to be considered a real hero. Perhaps Breath of the Wild 2 will shed some more light on it, and perhaps even confirm that the Gorons of the era of the Wild are direct descendants of the Gorons from the child timeline. Perhaps it might even confirm the placement of both of the era of the Wild Zelda games. No doubt, this rock carving was an important clue, only that it needs further exploration, historical context, and most of all, confirmation by the Gorons. The same goes for the Leviathan bones hidden away in the edge of the province. Are they really connected to Skyward Sword's Levius? I guess we'll need to explore these ancient bones much closer in a future video, and perhaps we might even find a thing or two about the meaning for Breath of the Wild 2. In other words, when it comes to content, it feels like Eldin has a lot of untapped potential. As mentioned before, the Zelda team could include so much more interesting activities and secrets to discover, but as it stands now, excluding the North Mine, Goron City and Vah Rudania, the area is rather barren, with Korok seeds and a few shrines being the extent of your discoveries. And since there's a very big chance that shrines will no longer be a thing in Breath of the Wild 2 due to the absence of Sheikah structures in the reveal trailer, something else is going to have to fill that void. Perhaps some dungeons, longer explorable caves, minecart racing, or other new side quests or minigames.
Side quests were definitely lacking in the Eldin province. In total for the entire province there were 4, not counting shrine quests. Compare that to the many quests found in the other provinces of Hyrule and you can see how underused Eldin was for this purpose. It really does feel like the Zelda team spent much more time fleshing out Gerudo Town and some other locations over Death Mountain and the Gorons. In fact, even the music in Goron City was greatly underwhelming compared to the other tribes or past iterations of Death Mountain for that matter. Why not give the same treatment to the Gorons in the sequel? Perhaps we could assist in their mining business, help them with their trade, or protect their land from an enemy infestation. Which brings us to the final aspect that can be greatly improved in Eldin. Enemies and enemy variety. If there is anything that a lot of people have been disappointed with when it comes to Breath of the Wild, it is the lack of enemy variety in the overworld and as well as the divine beasts and shrines. Seriously, we don't need 5 different shades for one enemy race. More iconic enemy types from older games did not make a return in this game. We did see some new additions like the Guardians, overworld bosses and the Yiga clan members, but it was all not enough to shake the feeling that you were basically fighting the same types of enemies all over the map, just with different colors or elemental types, which in the case of Eldin is no different. Igniotalus, Fire Choo-Choos, Fire Keys, Red Lizalfos, etc. Not exactly surprising. Which begs the question, where were the Dodongos, since
I can't wait to bomb some Dodongos!
How can we have Death Mountain without one of the oldest and most iconic Zelda enemies, the arch enemy of Goron since their first ambush in Ocarina of Time? It would be great to see them back in their natural habitat, in the caves and around Death Mountain, possibly supporting Ganondorf. Perhaps we could even see another rivalry between the Dodongos and the Gorons over territory and resources like edible rocks, where Dodongos occupy a specific area of Death Mountain and we are sent out to deal with them as part of a side quest. These are just ideas, but hey, we can dream, can't we? The same goes with another member of the Zeldan dragon family after Volvagia and Valu. I guess that it is a good spot to put to rest to the 8 provinces as we have had to go through all of them, as we will soon take the step into the specific content of the upcoming game. Hopefully with more information after another teaser or trailer of the game itself. So, be sure to leave a like, subscribe and smash that notification bell, and then press it again for all notifications if you haven't already to not miss any of our upcoming Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 and other Zelda videos. Anyways, a big thanks goes out to all of our patreon.com/commonrealm patrons, which we hope you can join or hear on YouTube by pressing the join button. Alternatively, you can enjoy one of these 2 awesome videos.